Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Aziz Miaspiruddin, and I will explain to you about the subtopic 7.4, which is on the transcoding and content adaptation architecture. So, firstly, we should know about the definition of the content adaptation, which means that modifying the representation of internet content in order to come up with the versions that meet diverse user requirements and the distinct characteristics of devices and access networks. So there are some of the motivation for the content adaptation, which stated in 4 points: the terminal diversity, which have different display size, bandwidth, memory, processing power, user interface, etc. And available network environment, it depending on the current location and the terminal support, maybe on the GSM data. Third is the user preferences, which refer to the information presenting styles, time issues, and the cost issues. And lastly, it's about the definition of the multimedia unit, or called as MMU, the unit of data transmitted over a network containing on one or more multimedia content elements. For example, the usage of the elements of a web page, which is typically have been composed of several MMUs. So there are several types of content adaptation, which is on the format adaptation, characteristics adaptation, appearance adaptation, size adaptation, and encapsulation adaptation. So for the format adaptation, it refers to the on converting original content format to the format also understandable by the receiver. So it can be example as when someone want to convert from the original size, original file format, for example on JPG to the GIF format, or MP4 to the MP3 file format. So next, characteristics adaptation. It means that in modifying media objects characteristics while remaining within a given format. So for example, it can refer on the image or video resolution, whether the software can be convert of the file form, the resolution, maybe the video resolution, from the large file to the lower usage of the file. Next, appearance adaptation. It means that the modifying the content of an multimedia unit for the purpose of changing how it looks or sounds. It had been needed to conform to the capabilities of the receiver and may even increase in usability. For example, can be explained on condensed version from a web page, portrait to landscape mode. Next, we go to the size adaptation, which means that reducing the size of an MMU message to match the capabilities of the receiver and the underlying network environment. So in implementing of the size adaptation, they have 4 environment, which is on the removal of some MMU objects, changing the encapsulation, converting to another format, and lastly about the characteristics of the adaptation. And the last one, which will be the encapsulation adaptation. It means that the adaptation which will be converting of the MMU messages from one application protocol to another, and therefore involving repacking a message without altering any of the media content. For example, on the splitting of an email to a sequence or called as spam. So there are some methods of implementing of the content adaptation, which is a multimedia transcoding, content selection, rendering at the client, and hybrid approaches. So when in multimedia transcoding, it can be modifying the properties of the multimedia object to meet the capabilities of the terminal. Usually it will be an automatic process. So these are the some elements in the multimedia transcoding architecture. And for the next, it will be the transcoding of the audio-visual content, which means that the audio-visual may have been processed before they can produce the desired format. The transcoding of the non-audio-visual content, which means often in XML applications. Transcoding of procedural code, which will be in complexity, makes transcoding unattractive. And the advantages and the drawbacks, which the advantages will be the increased usability and automatic process. And for the disadvantage will be the copyright issues, and adapted results may not be acceptable or usable. For the content selection, it refers to on the multiple versions or modality of each multimedia object, which have been stored in the server, and the server will be can be choose on the best version for the given terminal. So these are the some of the example which will be used in the info pyramid. The customizer, separating content and its representation, and there are some of the advantages and the drawbacks when we use on the content selection, which means advantages, it will be increased in usability and selecting less processing intensive than transcoding. So when in process of the rendering at the client, it may be the adapting the content before the user can be appears on the screen by rendering it in a suitable way for the given terminal. The renderer also handles alternative content such as on the image, which can be show up on the show images to be turned off. And lastly, on the hybrid approaches, which refer to the mixing of the different adaptations methods together at the same time, which, for example, when during the transcoding, it can be a part of on the content selection mixed with the transcoding and the content selection, which can be mixed or performed on the media content, and the final layout, which is left to the terminal when rendering. So these are the some of the example of the invention that may refer to the content adaptation and the transcoding Samsung future mobile project. So that's all from me. Thank you.